My sister planned her wedding upon my very same day. My parents asserted, "It's vital just for her." I wailed, "What about my tomorrow, please?" They held absolutely still. Imagine this. Your wedding day, the one you've meticulously planned, saved for, and poured your heart into for months. And then your own sister, the golden child of the family, deliberately books her lavish engagement party on the exact same date. My parents looked at me and said, "Michael, it's important for her." My blood ran cold, and I screamed, "What about my future?" They just stayed silent. That was the moment I knew, truly knew, the depth of their betrayal. But that was just the prologue to a family saga so twisted, so infuriating, and so utterly satisfying in its retribution. You'll want to grab some popcorn. Because this isn't just a story about injustice, it's about a gold digger's epic downfall and the sweet, sweet taste of karma, served ice cold and without mercy. So let me set the scene. My name is Michael, and this whole nuclear family explosion, as I like to call it, happened when I was 27. Now I'm 30, a construction project manager, and I got here by grinding. By working every single position from the ground up. Electrical, plumbing, general contracting, you name it. No college, just vocational school, honest effort, and sweat. My parents always preached hard work, and I took it to heart. Then there's Emily, my sister, 2 years younger. She's never worked a genuine day in her life. She realized early on that being conventionally gorgeous and a master manipulator would get her far further than actual skill or effort. Since high school, she's been jumping from one affluent lover to the next, always looking for the biggest bank account, the next financial upgrade. And my parents, they adored it. She brought home men with impressive salaries and flashy job titles, making them look good socially. Emily was their golden child, no subtlety about it. From birth, she had complete royal care. When I graduated trade school with honors and landed my first project management job, my parents just gave a casual, "That's nice, honey," before immediately changing the subject. But when Emily somehow stumbled through a communications degree, despite changing courses 3 times, they threw her a lavish party and spent months bragging about their extremely talented daughter. She isn't even truly intelligent, but she's convinced herself she's some kind of chess master, moving people like pawns when in reality, she's just shuffling checkers without a clue. Then there's Olivia, my incredible wife. We've been together 7 years, met at community college. She's a qualified nurse, genuinely passionate about helping others, and she's worked incredibly hard for her success. We built our life together through sacrifice, meticulous planning, and discipline. No trust funds, no freebies, just pure grit and smart financial choices. 2 years ago, we were buzzing, planning our September 14th wedding. We'd been engaged for 8 months, saved a solid $17,000 for a beautiful ceremony. Nothing over the top, just something memorable and meaningful. We sent out save the dates in January. By then, Emily had been dating an investment banker named Ethan for about 5 months. He was everything my parents ever dreamed of for Emily. MBA from a fancy university, drives a BMW worth more than most people's annual salaries, earning well over $190,000 a year, plus hefty bonuses. Emily's Instagram was already full of cringeworthy posts. When he treats you like the queen you deserve to be, with crown and diamond emojis, hashtagging her best life. Then, in July, just 2 months before my meticulously planned wedding, Emily made her grand announcement. Ethan proposed over some expensive rooftop dinner. Shocking, right? But here's where things went absolutely insane and my blood pressure shot through the roof. She immediately started planning this massive, over-the-top engagement party. And she purposefully chose September 14th, the exact same day as my wedding, which had been planned, advertised, and saved for over 8 months. When I confronted her directly about this obvious, deliberate conflict, she just shrugged. "Oh, I didn't even realize there was a problem with that date," she chirped, completely unconvincingly. But Ethan's parents are flying in from the West Coast, and this is literally the only weekend that works for everyone who matters in our lives. Let that sink in. Everyone who really matters. My mother, predictably, started her usual, "Can't you guys just work this out?" routine, implying I should just delay my wedding, the one Olivia and I had poured our souls into, simply because Princess Emily suddenly needed that precise date for her engagement party. I tried to explain, calmly, that an engagement party can happen anytime. A wedding is a once-in-a-lifetime event families plan for. Emily just rolled her eyes, as if I was being overly dramatic. "Michael, you're getting very emotional about this. We're not just having a random party. Ethan's father is a senior partner at the firm, and this event will be attended by all their most significant clients. This could be extremely important for Ethan's career progression and our future together. Your wedding will only be attended by family members and school buddies. Just family and schoolmates." In her self-centered worldview, my wedding was utterly insignificant. And the absolute worst part? My parents instantly nodded along, as if she were making perfect, logical sense instead of being an utterly selfish monster. 6 weeks before my wedding, instead of the excited confirmations I expected, I started getting these weird, evasive comments from family members. Instead of a simple yes, everyone was saying vague things like, "We'll see how everything develops," or "We're still trying to figure out our schedule situation." It made no sense. Then my best man, James, my friend since middle school, called me one evening. His tone was off, strange, uncomfortable. He said he had to talk to me about something important. Turns out, Emily had been texting him behind my back for weeks, trying to convince him that I was being unreasonable and selfish about the date conflict. She told him that, as my closest friend, he should persuade me to be more flexible and understanding. She tried to turn my best man against me during my wedding planning. The breaking point came when my father called me. "Look, son," he said, his voice dripping with faux concern. "Your sister's engagement party is genuinely important for her future prospects and financial security. Perhaps you and Olivia could consider moving your wedding back a few months. You're both already established and steady in your jobs." That's when I finally snapped. My voice rose, raw with disbelief. "Dad, are you honestly asking me to postpone my wedding so Emily can have her engagement party on the same day?" He paused, then doubled down. "This isn't just any random party, Michael. It's all about Emily's future, financial security, and social status. Ethan comes from an excellent family with business connections that could set them up for life financially." I was shaking with fury. What about my life, Dad? What about my future and what matters to me and Olivia? There was this incredibly long, uncomfortable silence. I could almost hear the gears turning in his head. Then he said, "You're already doing well for yourself, son. You've created your own job. You're financially secure and self-sufficient. Emily needs this chance more than you need a large wedding ceremony." It was a punch to the gut. Right then, I understood. In their twisted, self-serving minds, my sister's blatant social climbing was infinitely more vital and important than my marriage to the woman I adored. 3 weeks before my wedding, the RSVPs arrived. My parents, Emily, both sets of grandparents, my uncles and aunts, almost every single member of my extended family had formally declined my wedding invitation with polite, flimsy reasons. They were all going to Emily's engagement celebration instead. Even James, my supposed best man, called me 2 days before the wedding to abruptly cancel. "I'm really sorry, man," he mumbled, "but Emily makes some valid points about this situation. This could be genuinely important for their future together financially, and your wedding will still be meaningful and special with Olivia's family there to support you." I wanted to reach through the phone and physically shake him until his teeth rattled. My wedding day arrived, and it was the most bittersweet day of my life up to that point. Olivia looked absolutely gorgeous, radiating joy in her dress. Her family was incredible, so supportive and welcoming. Our true friends who did show up made it truly unique and unforgettable. But there was this gaping, empty section where my supposedly loving family should have been seated, celebrating this massive milestone with us. It was a wound. Olivia's father, bless his heart, even offered to accompany me down the aisle. "I'm truly honored to call you my son," he whispered just before we reached the altar. I nearly broke down in tears in front of everyone. During the reception, I couldn't help myself. I kept checking my phone like some emotional masochist, poking at a wound that wouldn't heal. Emily, of course, was sharing Instagram stories all evening from her party. Exquisite ice sculptures, decadent catering, live music, a professional photographer, the whole 9 yards. She even posted a video of Ethan delivering a heartfelt speech about how privileged and glad he was to be joining such a lovely, caring family. My family. The same family who couldn't be bothered to attend their own son's wedding because they had something else to do. 3 months after my wedding, my maternal grandfather died unexpectedly in his sleep. He was 89 and had been slowly declining, so his passing wasn't a shock. What was shocking, though, was what happened at the official reading. It turned out Grandpa had been paying far more attention to our family dynamics than anyone ever gave him credit for. He left me his entire house, a stunning 4-bedroom craftsman-style home in one of the most desired districts, valued at $475,000. He also left me his totally restored vintage car collection, including 3 classic Mustangs he'd worked on for decades, plus an $80,000 life insurance policy I had no idea even existed. And Emily? For her, he left his old book collection and a $2,500 government savings bond that had been untouched for years. The family attorney read all of this out right in front of our entire family. I watched Emily's face morph from smug assurance to absolute disbelief, then pure, unadulterated rage. Her mouth literally dropped open. "That's completely impossible," she shrieked. "Grandpa always told me I was his favorite grandchild and that he was preparing something special for me." The attorney, emotionless, simply glanced down at his professional paperwork. Mr. Patterson was quite clear and detailed about his dying wishes. He actually updated his entire will just before his death. Later, my cousin Sophia, who was still my only connection to that side of the family, confirmed it. Grandpa had updated everything exactly 2 weeks after my wedding day. The wise old man had been meticulously keeping track of who showed up when it genuinely mattered most. My parents were furious, complaining about the unfairness, but since everything was legally documented, they had no recourse. So there I was at 30, married to an absolutely incredible woman who supported all my aspirations, living in a $475,000 property I owned outright, with 3 valuable classic cars and a significant amount of cash in the bank. But instead of just sitting on this unexpected windfall, I made a strategic decision to use it as a powerful foundation for something far greater. My first move, I sold one of the Mustangs for $38,000 to a collector who'd admired it for years. I combined those proceeds with the life insurance payoff and made down payments on 2 well-positioned rental homes in up-and-coming areas. The real estate market was just starting to heat up, and I got in right before prices exploded. At my regular job, I was already a respected project manager. But now, with newfound courage and resources, I took bigger professional risks. On weekends and evenings, I launched my own construction consulting firm, specializing in project management for large-scale commercial renovations. With a fully paid-off property, I could take on contracts with longer payment schedules, drastically undercutting larger, more established organizations while still maintaining excellent profit margins. Within 18 months, my side business was earning more than my day job. I left my firm on good terms and went full-time with my own company. By the end of year 2, I was earning roughly $195,000 a year and owned 4 distinct rental properties, generating consistent, passive income without requiring hands-on maintenance. Olivia and I were living our absolute, ideal life together. We traveled extensively, through lavish dinner parties, and started serious discussions about establishing a family. Meanwhile, my biological family had completely written me off as the ungrateful son who'd just gotten lucky and would surely mismanage a fortune he didn't deserve. They had no idea that I was methodically documenting and recording every disparaging remark, every family function I was excluded from, every social media post where Emily boasted about her opulent lifestyle, subtly jabbing at my life choices. Because beneath Emily's carefully curated facade, her engagement to Ethan was revealing some serious structural flaws. Ethan had imagined he was getting a low-maintenance trophy bride who would appreciate his financial support. Instead, Emily was incredibly high-maintenance, bordering on insane. She quickly quit her part-time administrative job, which she never took seriously anyway, and expected him to pay for her entire lifestyle without question. We're talking $600 meals multiple times a week, shopping sprees that cost more than most people's monthly rent, and an $80,000 premium Mercedes SUV for her birthday that she claimed was practical. Ethan was making good money, but Emily was systematically depleting it faster than he could earn it, even with his generous bonuses. And unlike the trust fund kids she dated before, Ethan had worked his butt off for every dollar, so he actually understood the value of money. My cousin Sophia, the only family member who maintained contact after the wedding fiasco, gave me detailed updates. She told me how Emily was systematically draining Ethan's accounts, and how even my parents were growing increasingly concerned that their golden goose was getting tired of being plucked clean. By the time I was 31, my company was shattering every performance statistic imaginable. I had successfully expanded operations into 3 regional markets, hired 12 full-time employees whom I treated well and paid competitively, and was on track to earn $320,000 that year before taxes. Olivia and I paid cash for a gorgeous lake cottage as a weekend hideaway, and were having even more serious conversations about starting our family within the next year. Meanwhile, Emily's seemingly flawless fairy tale existence was methodically collapsing, and she was too oblivious and self-absorbed to notice the calamity approaching like a freight train. Ethan was working much longer hours, traveling more frequently for business, which Emily took as unwavering commitment to their financial future. In reality, Sophia confirmed during our monthly coffee dates, he was desperately dreading coming home because Emily had become utterly unbearable, constantly harassing him about money. She had transformed into one of those nightmare fiancés who truly believed wedding planning meant spending an infinite amount of someone else's money with no boundaries, no restraints, and no regard for financial reality. The dream wedding venue she absolutely required cost $55,000 just for the basic room rental, not including catering, decor, or anything else. Her dream wedding dress was $9,000 from a designer boutique. She envisioned a lavish 3-week honeymoon in Europe costing over $28,000, including first-class flights, luxury accommodations, and exquisite dining. Ethan's parents, initially impressed by Emily's polished presentation, were starting to see through her act. At family dinners, she'd make passive-aggressive remarks about how certain individuals didn't appreciate the value of investing in relationships, maintaining suitable social appearances, and community status. The breaking point came over a Christmas dinner at my parents' place, a dinner I wasn't invited to, being persona non grata. Sophia, my inside source, discreetly videotaped parts of the conversation on her phone and emailed me the footage later that evening, knowing I'd be curious. Emily, of course, was conspicuously displaying her engagement ring for 0.5 carats, $45,000, according to her continuous social media bragging, and passionately detailing her extravagant wedding plans. Then Ethan's mother asked what seemed like an innocent question: "What kind of work does Emily do professionally these days?" The dining room went absolutely silent. You could hear a pin drop. Emily then laughed dismissively and stated, "Oh, I'm currently considering professional options while focusing on our relationship." Ethan and I mutually decided it would be much better for me to focus entirely on planning our life together rather than getting distracted by some meaningless job. Ethan's facial expression in that video was absolutely priceless. I watched it multiple times. You could literally see the exact moment he realized his fiancée had just openly admitted to being a professional gold digger in front of his entire family. Emily's wedding was officially scheduled for June 12th, exactly 2 years after my own modest celebration. Unlike my carefully budgeted ceremony, focused on meaning over materialism, this was going to be a $125,000 spectacular extravaganza, funded entirely by Ethan and his increasingly concerned family members. Through my expanding business network, I'd met a forensic accountant who specialized in financial investigations for family law cases and divorce proceedings. We developed a genuine friendship, and during one of our regular coffee conversations, I casually mentioned my sister's increasingly problematic financial situation. "Your sister sounds like a real piece of work," he said thoughtfully after I described her spending habits. Exactly the type of woman who would systematically drain someone's accounts and disappear if she thought she could get away with it. That conversation sparked an idea that would eventually change everything. I began systematically documenting Emily's spending habits, using her own proudly posted social media content as evidence. Every expensive dinner she boasted about, every elaborate shopping trip she documented with photos, every luxury vacation she photographed and posted online with detailed captions. Emily had consistently been living a lifestyle that cost around $9,000 per month for the past 20 months of her engagement. I created an extremely detailed spreadsheet tracking her lifestyle costs, based entirely on her own bragging, and the results were absolutely staggering when compiled and objectively analyzed. I'd also been keeping track of Ethan's career advancement through various industry connections in the financial sector. My plan was nearly foolproof. I knew her spending was entirely funded by Ethan's earnings and savings, with no contribution from her. And the big promotion Emily was constantly bragging about to justify her extravagant spending? According to my sources, it was never going to happen. His company was struggling with major market changes and regulatory pressures, and serious rumors of significant layoffs were circulating to cut costs. 2 months before Emily's elaborate wedding, I began making carefully calculated strategic moves that would set everything in motion. First, I contacted Ethan's father through legitimate business channels and professional networking. I introduced myself as a fellow professional and expressed my genuine concern about some troubling industry rumors regarding Ethan's firm's overall financial stability and future prospects. "You've heard about Meridian Capital's major problems too?" he responded immediately with obvious concern. "We're becoming increasingly worried about Ethan's position. He's been quite secretive about work problems lately, and some of Emily's statements contradict what we've heard from other credible industry connections." I planted just enough legitimate concern to get him asking all the right questions without seeming suspicious. Second, I reached out to a guy I knew who worked directly at Ethan's company, in a different department. Without ever mentioning my personal connection to Emily, I asked general questions about the firm's stability, claiming I was considering potential business partnerships with them. "Honestly," he cautioned me, "I'd strongly recommend staying far away from any deals with them. We've had 3 significant layoff cycles in the last year alone. The partners are losing money quickly, and Ethan has been on very thin ice for months. He'll most likely be gone before the summer, according to workplace gossip." Everything was falling into place perfectly according to my plan. Then, 3 weeks before Emily's wedding, the perfect storm struck with devastating force, changing everything. Ethan was completely laid off from his investment banking position. Emily, predictably, had no idea. Ethan was too embarrassed and terrified to tell her the truth. Not only was he fired for poor performance, but his entire division was eliminated as part of a massive company restructuring. Emily had been counting on his $210,000 annual salary, substantial bonus structure, and valuable stock options. He had been frantically putting wedding expenses on multiple credit cards for months, hoping to land another comparable position before anyone discovered his true financial situation, and the house of cards collapsed. This was my perfect moment. Time to strike decisively and execute the plan I'd been developing. I created a completely anonymous email account and sent Ethan's father a comprehensive analysis of Emily's documented spending over the past 2 years. I included detailed screenshots of her social media posts, her constant bragging about expensive purchases, luxury restaurant visits, designer shopping sprees, and elaborate vacations. The report clearly demonstrated that Emily had been systematically burning through approximately $165,000 of Ethan's money each year on pure lifestyle expenses and status symbols, with absolutely no regard for their actual financial situation. I included a carefully worded note stating that I was a concerned business associate who believed the family should be fully aware of the financial situation before making any major commitments or investments. Ethan's father immediately forwarded this detailed information to Ethan with an urgent message. They needed to have an emergency family meeting about Emily's spending habits and their growing concerns about the upcoming marriage and financial obligations. Meanwhile, Sophia informed me that Ethan's mother had been conducting her own investigation and discovered that Emily had been actively telling people that Ethan had been promoted to partner, which was completely false, and that they were seriously looking at houses in the $900,000 range, which was absolutely impossible given their current finances. The final confrontation occurred at what was supposed to be their last wedding planning meeting with vendors. Ethan arrived with both his parents. He presented Emily with printed bank statements, clearly showing he'd accumulated $50,000 in credit card debt, funding her lifestyle demands. Then his father presented the comprehensive spending analysis I'd provided. "Emily," Ethan said, his voice shaking with emotion and stress, "we need to postpone the wedding indefinitely until we can figure out our financial situation and get back on stable ground." According to Sophia, who later heard every single detail from my mother, Emily completely and utterly lost her mind in spectacular fashion. She started screaming about how they couldn't postpone because everything was already planned and paid for, with money Ethan clearly didn't have. She accused Ethan's parents of being jealous of her success and happiness, claiming they were purposefully sabotaging the wedding because they never thought she was good enough for their precious son. Then Ethan unleashed the nuclear bomb that annihilated everything. "Emily," he said, his voice quiet but devastating, "I lost my job a month ago. We cannot afford this wedding. We cannot afford your lifestyle. We can't afford anything you've planned." Emily's response was pure gold, revealing her true character without a doubt. "So, get another job right away. This is my special day, and I'm not going to cancel it because you can't handle your career responsibilities." Ethan walked out immediately, followed by his parents. The wedding planner, looking stunned, gathered her materials and left without saying another word. The $125,000 wedding that was supposed to take place in 3 weeks was completely destroyed and over. Emily had to move back in with my parents after Ethan kicked her out of his apartment and changed the locks. The wedding venue kept the entire $17,000 deposit in accordance with their contract terms. The caterer kept another $8,500 for food that would never be served. And Emily was stuck with a $9,000 wedding gown she'd never wear, as well as approximately $33,000 in other deposits and payments that were completely non-refundable. But the story gets much, much better from there. I was just getting started with my retribution. Within a week of the wedding cancellation, Ethan's parents sent Emily an official legal demand letter for $78,000, representing everything they had invested in the wedding, which was now completely lost due to Emily's unreasonable financial expectations and irresponsible behavior. They had receipts for everything. Emily had no savings, had never held a legitimate job in her adult life. She tried desperately to get Ethan back with tearful phone calls and apologies, but he had already started dating a co-worker who was a certified financial planner with her own apartment and a fully funded retirement account. My parents, who had tolerated Emily's entitled behavior for years without consequence, suddenly found themselves supporting a 29-year-old daughter with no job, no savings, no boyfriend, and lifestyle expectations they couldn't possibly afford on their retirement income. That's when the increasingly desperate phone calls to me began coming in on a daily basis. First, my mother, her voice dripping with guilt-tripping tones. "Michael, I know things have been strained between us lately, but Emily is really struggling right now and needs family support. Perhaps you could assist her find work with one of your business contacts? You know, successful individuals now." I immediately sent her to voicemail and didn't even listen to the entire message. Then my father, trying to be authoritative. "Son, I know we haven't always agreed on everything, but family is family and we stick together. Emily made some mistakes in judgment, but she has learned from the experience. Maybe you could lend her some money to help her get stable and back on her feet." Voicemail. I savored the solitude. Finally, Emily called, screaming hysterically. "Michael, I know I made awful errors and wounded you deeply. I know I wasn't supportive of your wedding situation, and I apologize for everything. But I'm your sister, and I really need assistance. Ethan's parents have threatened legal action, and I don't know what to do. Could you kindly assist me get through this difficult period?" I opted to answer this time. I wanted to hear her beg. "Hey, Emily," I said, my voice calm. "Oh, thank God, Michael. I was terrified you wouldn't speak to me anymore. Look, I understand that the wedding date situation became problematic and sentiments were hurt, but it is all in the past now. I really need—" "Stop talking immediately," I cut her off. "What? I do not comprehend. I told you to halt." I took a deep breath. "Here's exactly what will happen. You're going to acquire a job, a real one, where you work for money and get paid. You're going to repay Ethan's parents every dime you owe them. And you're going to do all of this without any support from me." "But Michael," her voice rose, "I do not understand why you are being so rude. We are family. Grandpa left you all of that money. You have a profitable business. You could easily—" "Let me stop you right there," I said, my voice ice cold. "Grandpa handed me that inheritance because I attended his funeral while you were shopping. Do you remember where you were that day? Using Ethan's credit card in the mall. He left me that money because he realized that I had achieved something valuable in my life through hard effort. That's not fair. I didn't know Grandpa was keeping track of who—" "Of course you didn't know," I interrupted. "You never pay attention to anything that doesn't immediately benefit you, just as you did when you purposefully booked your engagement party on my wedding day after I had publicized the date months in advance." There was a long, uncomfortable stillness. I could hear her breathing, ragged. "Look," she continued, shifting into the manipulative tone she'd cultivated since infancy. "I realize I've made some errors in the past, but I'm your baby sister. Don't you want me to be satisfied and successful?" "Do you mean you want me to want you to be comfortable without having earned it?" I asked, straight to the point. "No, Emily. I honestly do not want that for you anymore." "Thank you, Emily. I am practically begging you and swallowing my pride. I will do everything you want of me." "Here is what you can do. Get a job at a retail store, a restaurant, or any other place that will hire someone with no genuine work experience or valuable abilities. Move into a little apartment that you paid for with your own money. And maybe in a few years, once you've demonstrated your ability to operate as a responsible adult, we can talk about starting a relationship again." "But what should I tell people?" she wailed. "Ethan's parents are suing me, and all of my friends will know. This is really unpleasant and degrading." "Emily," I said, a grim satisfaction spreading through me. "Welcome to the consequences." Emily eventually found work folding clothes at a mall department store, earning $13 an hour. She moved into a tiny one-bedroom apartment with a roommate and drives a 2010 Honda Civic she bought from a used car lot. When I hung up that phone call, I felt better than I had in years. She's only had 4 dates in 10 months. all with men who can't or won't afford the lifestyle she used to demand. Most of her old friends stopped hanging out with her when the money ran out and she couldn't afford to go out anymore. Her Instagram feed has shifted from boasting about her luxurious lifestyle to generic, saccharine inspirational quotes that no one believes or engages with. My parents have started contacting me again, but only because they now need advice on their retirement planning, and they've realized I know a thing or two about money management. Ethan got a new job at a smaller firm, earning around $140,000, and he proposed to the financial planner. They're planning a small wedding, paying for it themselves, with absolutely no family drama. Last month, James, my former best man, sent me a long, apologetic text, saying he didn't understand the full situation, and asking if we could meet up to talk things through. I never responded, and I deleted his phone number. Olivia and I recently purchased a second vacation property in Costa Rica and plan to start trying for our first child next year. My business is expected to make $400,000 this year, and I'm thinking about expanding into 2 more markets. I never gave Emily a dime throughout her ordeal, not even when Ethan's parents sued her and she had to settle for $38,000 over 5 years, or when she was evicted from her first apartment for failing to pay rent. Last month, Olivia and I went to our friend Mike's wedding at a beautiful downtown venue, and that's where I saw her. My parents had once suggested that family helps family during difficult times. I gently reminded them that family is also supposed to attend weddings and important life events. Emily didn't notice me, but I saw her clearly throughout the evening. She had her hair pulled back in a regulation ponytail, dressed in a black uniform polo shirt and slacks. She was carrying trays of appetizers to guests, celebrating someone else's perfect day, earning minimum wage plus tips. Life truly has a great sense of justice and irony sometimes. And sometimes the most satisfying retribution isn't about actively ruining someone's life, but rather stepping back, letting them trash their own, while you construct something incredible and simply watch from afar.